Vice President Fielder, can you hear us?
Yes, Mr. President, I can. Thank you.
All right, very good. All right, colleagues, you ready? Good morning, everybody. Time is now 9:30 a.m. Today's date is Tuesday, November 28, 2023. This is the time and place for our regularly scheduled business meeting. We're in the Commission conference room here at the Public Service Commission. Would my colleagues join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? All right. Thank you, colleagues. I would note for the record that Commissioner O'Donnell, Commissioner Pinocci, myself, Commissioner Bukacek are here in the Bollinger Room, and Vice President Fielder is participating online. Therefore, we do have quorum. All right. The Montana Public Service Commission welcomes public comment on any matter that is on today's agenda or on any matter that is within the jurisdiction of the Montana Public Service Commission. Are there any public commenters in the room? Any public commenters in the room? Seeing none. Are there any public commenters online? I'm told there are not. So no public comment this morning. We do have one change to the agenda this morning. This is work session item number 4, docket 2023.06049. Energy West's application for an order approving its reconciliation of collections and disbursements of its USB accounts. We're going to defer that to the next business meeting, which is next Tuesday. Do have one matter of personal privilege, if my colleagues would indulge me. I'm sad to report that a former employee of the Public Service Commission passed away on November 21st. William Bill Opitz, who served as the executive director of the Public Service Commission at one point in his very distinguished career, both in state government and the federal government. So if colleagues would take a few moments to memorialize Mr. Opitz. All right, thank you, colleagues. All right, let's move right into our action items. Action item number 1 is approval of the commission minutes for the week of November 6, 2023. Is there a motion, Commissioner Bukacek?
I move that we approve the minutes for the week of November 6, 2023.
Is there a second, Commissioner Pinocci?
I'll second.
A motion and second. Discussion on the minutes, changes, revisions, edits? Seeing none, all those in favor of Commissioner Bukacek's motion to approve the commission minutes for the week of November 6, 2023 is drafted, signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no. Seeing no opposition, the minutes are approved. All right, let's move straight into our work session items then. Work session item number 1 is docket 2023.08.079. Aquanet Lindley Lake Estates. This is the application for rates and charges for service in Billings, Montana. We're here to consider appointing an internal staff attorney as the hearing examiner for this matter and to consider authorizing hearing on the application. Mr. Hamilton, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. President and commissioners. As the president just indicated, this particular work session concerns Aquanet Lindley Lakes Estates. They are a small, privately owned water and sewer company providing service to a subdivision near Billings, Montana. They currently have rates of $80 a month, but have filed an application with the commission to increase those rates to $156.81 a month, which is nearly double where they're at right now. That new rate calculation is based on the commission's operating ratio methodology, which is one of our simplified treatment options for small water utilities. The MCC has intervened in this docket, but no procedural schedule has yet been issued. I should back up here. The purpose of today's work session is twofold. First, to consider the appointment of a staff attorney as a hearing examiner to administer this docket. And second, to authorize that hearing examiner to schedule a hearing in this matter, given the size of the increase and the input we've already received from customers of the company, Aquanet Lindley Lakes Estates. We do recommend both appointing a hearing examiner and scheduling a hearing. The purpose of appointing a hearing examiner is really driven by the commission's current schedule for the new year, which is already pretty well filled up into March. So the advantage of appointing a hearing examiner in this docket is that you will allow that examiner to schedule a hearing, to hold that hearing at a time when the commission would otherwise be preoccupied with its other work. Now, specifically, I would recommend appointing our staff attorney, Laura Wachowski, as the hearing examiner in this docket, so that she can then preside over the hearing and present the commission with ultimately a proposed decision. Now, anytime the commission appoints a hearing examiner or considers appointing a hearing examiner, it is worth discussing the standard of review that will apply when that hearing examiner is appointed. So as I mentioned, if the commission agrees with staff's recommendation today, you would appoint Laura Wachowski as the hearing examiner in this matter. She would then prepare a proposal for decision for the commission's consideration. The commission would then, if any party files them, consider objections or exceptions to the hearing examiner's proposed order. The commission may then adopt the hearing examiner's proposed order or reject or modify it. But if you choose the course of rejecting or modifying the hearing examiner's proposal, know that there is a standard review. You can modify and reject conclusions of law as if the hearing examiner had never made them. You can just correct those matters. But on findings of fact, you cannot reject the hearing examiner's finding of fact unless you find that the finding was not based on substantial credible evidence, or that the proceedings that led to those findings were fundamentally and essentially legally flawed. So it does take some discretion away from the commission anytime you appoint a hearing examiner when it comes to making core findings of fact based on the record evidence. That said, given the needs of this utility, the customer's interests in having a hearing, and the commission's current calendar off into the new year, staff's recommendation at this point is to appoint a hearing examiner, and for that examiner to be Laura Wachowski, and further to authorize the hearing examiner to schedule a hearing in this matter. Thank you.
All right, colleagues, I will move to appoint staff attorney Lori Wachowski as the hearing examiner in docket 2023.08.079 and to authorize her to issue a procedural schedule that includes setting a hearing date for Aquanet's application. Is there a second? Commissioner O'Donnell has seconded. We have motion and second. Discussion. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Yes, thank you for clarifying the separation or the diminution of commission authority on this. It's a serious decision, and I appreciate that. I also appreciate the recommendation due to the fact that this particular water district was within my district. I'm somewhat familiar with it. Attorney Wachowski is much more in detailed history of it, but the two parties are so widely apart from each other that I feel that it is really it deserves very careful consideration by a hearing examiner, and I think this will serve both parties in the Lindley Lakes matter very well. So I appreciate the recommendation. Support the motion.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell. Mr. Pinocci.
Thank you, Mr. President. Anytime the rates are going to double or near double, consumers very concerned about that because we're seeing rate increases all over the state for all kinds of things. So when the word double or nearly double comes to mind, certainly we want to look at things closely, and I want the listeners who may be listening to understand that that'll be looked into. And I have some ideas that might help. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pinocci. Additional discussion?
Mr. President.
Vice President Fielder.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear Commissioner O'Donnell's opinion on this, being that this is in his district and this has been, I think, a matter that's been ongoing for quite some time. So thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell, for offering your perspectives. I appreciate that. Just for a refresher from us, for myself, maybe for some other commissioners, when we go to this hearing examiner process, Mr. Hamilton, can you explain to us the separation that's required? The hearing examiner would hold the hearing. Does that mean that the commissioners are not permitted to attend that at that point, and other staff? How does that work?
Mr. President, Vice President Fielder, that's a great question. Happy to elaborate. The advantage of appointing a hearing examiner is that the hearing examiner would be the presiding officer at the hearing. There would be no need for the other commissioner. Well, it's a staff attorney, so I shouldn't say other commissioners. There would be no need for the 5 commissioners to attend that hearing and participate in that hearing in the way that we do when we don't have a hearing examiner, as we have in most of our recent contested cases. So that does free up your time. It is still a public meeting, however. So any person, any party or not, commissioner or not, staff member or not, any person that would like to attend and watch that hearing is certainly welcome to do so. So there would be no limitations on who can attend and participate in that hearing in that sense.
Okay, thank you for that. I understand we have the option to attend. I guess what I'm looking for is clarification on any limitations in commission participation once we assign this to a hearing examiner. Does the commission have to stay hands off until we receive the hearing examiner's report?
Mr. President, Vice President, that would be my recommendation. Yes, that the commission would leave to the hearing examiner the process of conducting that hearing, including fulfilling that role of asking questions of the parties during the hearing, of inquiring into the evidence that is being provided by both MCC and Aquanet Lindley Lakes in this instance. That way, each of the 5 commissioners is coming at it openly, fairly, without any evidence of bias or any sort of prejudgment of the issues when you're examining the parties' exceptions to the hearing examiner's proposal for decision.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. And then I think my final question is there a intention in terms of where this hearing would be held?
Mr. President, Vice President, my recommendation at this point would be to find a location as close to the Lindley Lakes service territory as possible. I don't know if there will be community spaces available in the subdivision itself at this point, but certainly we want to be close to provide the maximum opportunity for the customers to participate.
Okay, I would appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. President. That's all the questions I have at this time.
All right. Thank you, Vice President Fielder. Commissioner O'Donnell.
Question, is this a public meeting? Is it like Zoom meeting?
Mr. President and Commissioner O'Donnell, yes. As with at least every commission proceeding that I've been a part of, or at least since COVID, we would endeavor to make sure there is fully functional Zoom at every day of this hearing.
Thank you. One other point, and that is that I attended a meeting on this matter called by the Yellowstone County commissioners. So since they have been involved in this, I think that the commissioners' offices would probably be available for that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Commissioner O'Donnell. We'll take that under advisement.
Additional discussion? Additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of my motion to appoint Laura Wachowski as the hearing examiner in this matter and to authorize her to schedule a hearing in this docket signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no. Seeing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. All right, let's move to work session item number 2. This is docket 2022.02.019. This is Miller Oil doing business as the City Line. This is the application for Miller Oil Company to return over collected propane gas costs. We're here to consider the draft final order on Miller Oil's application to refund over collected propane gas costs. Mr. Poco.
President Brown, Commissioners, good morning. Before you today, as you mentioned, is a draft final order in docket 2022.02.019 concerning Miller Oil's application to implement decreased rates and charges to return over collected propane gas costs. The purpose of this docket is to true up Miller Oil's propane gas costs from the year 2022. Miller Oil files monthly adjustments to its rates to reflect current propane costs. In this docket, Miller Oil overcollected $15,265 during calendar year 2022. Miller Oil also had a remaining undercollected balance of $867 from the calendar year 2021. Miller Oil proposed to decrease its rates to true up the net overcollected balance. Miller Oil calculated that a 0.0012 per CF decrease in rates would true up the net overcollected balance. Staff found that rate was supported by the record evidence and results in just and reasonable rates. That portion of the order is typical in how tracker true-up dockets proceed. However, the draft final order also discusses modifying Miller Oil's monthly tracker filings. After reviewing the discovery responses in this docket, Commission staff recognized that Miller Oil implements its monthly adjustments prior to receiving Commission approval and also charges those adjusted rates for services that occur before the approval date. By doing so on a monthly basis, Miller Oil violates the filed rate doctrine, the rule against retroactive rate making, and the plain language of the Commission's approved tariffs. In order to correct those issues, the draft order contemplates modifying the date that Miller Oil shall file its monthly tracker and gives directions to Miller Oil on how to implement the monthly rate adjustments, as outlined in paragraphs 18 and 19 of the draft final order. In developing the recommendations, Commission staff was sensitive to the fact that Miller Oil is a smaller utility, and the draft final order attempts to create as much consistency as possible with Miller Oil's current processes while correcting the retroactive rate making and filed rate doctrine issues. Staff recommends that the Commission approve the draft final order as the final order of the Commission and allow staff to make non-substantive changes required for clarity. Thank you.
Ms. Hubstead, anything to offer?
No, I would like to provide one clarification. However, just for your information, for the residential customer using about 3,200 cubic feet of propane per month, their monthly bill would decrease by about $3.84.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Umstead. All right. Is there a motion, Commissioner Pinocci?
Thank you, Mr. President. I make a motion to support staff recommendations, and it's always good to see that we're looking out for the ratepayer when there's an overcharge to return it. Shows that we're looking out for them. Thank you.
You could strike the narrative from the motion. Is there a second?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion and second. Commissioner Pinocci. Would you like to speak to your motion? Okay. Any discussion, Commissioner O'Donnell?
Thank you. So for a long time, Miller Oil was authorized to set the rates retroactively. Okay. And it's now come to the attention that that's incorrect. And I applaud the staff for finding that. And it would seem to me that their method of doing that retroactively, looking back for the month, would be to see what their actual costs were and to charge it. Then I'm curious as to why there is an overcollection with such a finely tuned rate structure. Any idea on that?
Commissioner O'Donnell and President Brown, I would say that it is very well. There's a lot. The regulatory lag is very low. And so the current process was put in place to match actual costs with actual usage. However, that does vary per month. When you see the monthly filings come in, it might not be reflective of all the propane invoices they had received that month solely because those invoices haven't been sent to them yet. So you have variation there. You have monthly usage varying from what's estimated, what their estimated usage would be per month. And so the under and over collections usually are very low in the annual true up per year.
Thank you.
President Brown, Commissioner O'Donnell, I would also like to note that the approved tariffs never allowed for retroactive rate making. The approved tariffs said for on or after the date that the tariff is approved for Miller Oil's monthly filing. So the commission was never contemplated allowing retroactive rate making in these monthly filer or monthly tracker filings. Thank you.
Additional discussion? Additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Commissioner Pinocchi's motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by saying no. Seeing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mrs. Umstead. Mr. Pogo. All right, let's move to work session item number 3. This is docket 2023.06.048. This is Energy West Montana. This is Energy West's application for an order making interim adjustments final and to reconcile the collection of gas costs. We're here to consider issuing a draft final order. We're here to consider issuing the draft final order as the final order of the commission. Mr. Pogo.
President Brown, commissioners, before you today, as you mentioned, is a draft final order in docket 2023.06.048 concerning Energy West Montana, also referred to as EWM's annual application to reconcile its gas costs. The draft order discusses the background of EWM's gas tracker and also discusses EWM's requests in this docket. EWM's request to refund an over-collection that occurred in its Great Falls/Cascade division and request to recover an under-collection that occurred in its West Yellowstone division are typical in these type of gas tracker dockets. However, EWM had 2 notable requests that deviate from the norm. With respect to its quote tracker period, EWM's annual tracker dockets typically recover an over or under collection occurring between April 1st of a given year through March 31st of the following year. However, in this docket, EWM requested to include April 2023 in its true-up in order to mitigate rate shock. In summary, EWM requested to true up an additional month that would normally be trued up in next year's docket. The staff did find that this request was reasonable because it would mitigate rate shock to customers in this docket. The other unique request by EWM was a request to recover a $200,000 or $213,245 under collection of gas supply costs incurred during the period July 1, 2003 through March 31st, 2022 in EWM's West Yellowstone service area. In the draft final order, this is referred to as the West Yellowstone past under collected balance. EWM has not filed to reconcile gas costs for West Yellowstone since the period ending June 30th, 2003, and provided really no reasons why it had not requested recovery for its West Yellowstone division over the past 20 years. Staff recommends denying this request for 2 reasons. First, EWM's gas tracker was not intended to reflect changes occurring over a 20-year period. Rather, the gas tracker was designed to reflect changes occurring over a 1-year period. Second, the request to recover the West Yellowstone past under collected balance would violate the cost causer principles because EWM is seeking to recover costs that date back to 2003 from customers over a 3-year period in the years 2024 through 2026. Ultimately, the draft order and staff recommends that the commission approve EWM's application, except for the request to recover the West Yellowstone past under collected balance. In paragraph 29 of the draft order, the draft final order contemplates EWM to file a revised exhibit in order to describe the proposed rates that exclude the West Yellowstone past under collected balance. Ultimately, staff recommends that commission approve the draft final order as the final order of the commission and allow staff to make non-substantive edits necessary for clarity. Thank you.
All right, colleagues, I'm going to move the commission issue the draft final order as the final order in this matter, and to allow staff to make non-substantive edits for clarity as needed. Is there a second?
Second?
All right, we have a motion and second. Discussion? Commissioner O'Donnell?
Thank you. Good explanation, and I appreciate the staff's evaluation of the reasons for denying the true up of the $300,000. And I don't know, that seems extraordinary that a company would have an excess payment for 20 years amounting to $300,000 that they wouldn't have addressed previously. And I would think that this indicates that poor bookkeeping on their part, which I think should be noted the next time they come up for a rate increase application. Thank you.
Discussion? So, Mr. Polko, just some clarifying, at least one clarifying question. So, in this matter, I believe MCC did intervene, correct?
It is correct.
All right, and it's my understanding that MCC actually didn't contest EWM's request to collect its past under collected balance. Is that correct?
President Brown, that is correct. There were some questions about the West Yellowstone past under collected balance. However, MCC did not request additional process in this docket.
However, it is still staff's recommendation that we deny the past under collected balance request, correct?
That is correct.
And part of the basis for that, of course, is that generally when we do true ups, we look at a year period, correct?
That is correct. It is described in the draft final order. When the commission approved these annual true ups, it was intended to be an annual true up and not a true up of 20 years.
Did EWM offer any explanation of why they waited for almost 2 decades to request this?
They offered some explanation. They essentially said they didn't know why. There was a change in leadership at EWM recently, and then they uncovered that this has never been trued up since 2003. But besides that, they have not. Also, I will note that historically, the EWM gas tracker balance has fluctuated between over and under collections, which could be reason why they never trued it up, because it naturally fluctuated and somewhat evened out.
Mr. Polko, so when a party like EWM comes before the commission and asks for our approval, say, of a past collection of an underbalance, it is their burden, correct, to prove that they're entitled to that?
President Brown, correct.
So it's staff's recommendation or assertion that EWM hasn't met its burden, correct, to prove that is entitled to the collection of the under collected balance.
President Brown, that would be correct.
All right, thank you, Mr. Polko. Additional discussion? Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you. So that people are aware, and it's my understanding that the cause-causer principle on an annual basis, there's going to be necessarily some inequity. Some people are going to leave during that year. People are going to be added on, but that's as close as possible to doing that. So when you get to 20 years, many people have come on. So to reward some or benefit others, that really stretches the equitability of the whole situation. So I really agree with staff's recommendation on this. Thank you.
All right, additional discussion? Additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of my motion to have the commission issue the draft final order as the final order on EWM's application to reconcile its gas costs signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify by saying no. Seeing no opposition, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Poco. As stated, the commission has decided to defer work session item number 4, which is EWM's application for an order approving its reconciliations, collections, and disbursements of its universal system benefits accounts until the next commission business meeting. So that concludes our work session items for the morning. So for public awareness, the next commission business meeting will be Tuesday, December 5th, 2023 at the regularly scheduled time. Seeing no further business to come before the commission. Time is now 10:01 a.m. I will adjourn today's business meeting.